Okay, this is the color that I'm using, and what I've done is I've picked up a little bit of my ultramarine blue and my hooker's green, and water is what modifies it. So the water will make it either thinner, or using less water will make it darker, but that's basically the color that I'm using. And a lot of times I will just work from the edge of something like this. So so I can have different values. So this will be a little lighter than that. If I need some darker, I can mix over on the other corner. So when I'm mixing, I'm thinking about you putting values, change of color. I'll work on another edge of it, but that way I'm kind of working from the same point. I was using that ultramarine blue and hooker's green to underpaint the trees, and I'm now up in this area right above the cliffs here. I check my reference material often just to see what's going on. Now, if you bring some of this stuff down, some of it comes way down. What you want to avoid is making a pattern, bringing them all down to the same size, evenly spaced apart. That is a human thing, and it really, you see it right off the. All right. So like I said, I'll come back later and probably darken this up. I will put in more detail on the houses. The houses don't need a lot of detail. Everything back here is small, so you don't need to get out a one-haired brush to put windows and people and everything else in. It's not that type of a scene here. I've mixed a color that is burnt sienna and blue, but it's more on the burnt sienna side. And this is not a finished color. This is just getting started on these rocks down here. And the sun is coming in from over the ocean. So it's going to be the right side of these rocks that are going to have a little more color. Sometimes I have to make it a little darker than I want when I'm doing demos so that you can actually see it. But just kind of dot and dash and create the idea that there's something there, a little bit darker. Trying to get out of the way here. Don't lose all of that light color that you had. Make these shapes not just a series of dots, but make some lines and something like the back sides of rocks that are sticking up. It can be a little bit darker down at the bottom because that's where it's wet. Now when I come back in, to darken these up, I'll leave some of this color so that you have a variety of values. You know, it's the values that paint the picture. Just coming in, just kind of tapping and dragging and making it just a series of little shapes. That's all this is. This is a series of little shapes. You don't have to get all carried away and worry about detail. This is just like a pile of rocks. That's literally all it is a pile of rocks. Now here it's darker right along the base because all of these are wet. And I can make my shapes a little bit bigger. And I'm looking at my reference photo. They kind of like look like they've been poured down over here. So I'm trying to make some of my shapes kind of look like they had tumbled down. Bigger ones, smaller ones. They put fill in. Here, pour fill. And I'm going to lighten just a part of that color. So I have just a lighter version. Maybe add just a little bit more sienna to it. A little more than that. Because this is now getting into some of the drier rocks. But shapes. You know, everybody sweats rocks so much, but really they're just abstract shapes, especially when they're this small. You notice how I'm just kind of dancing my brush across here. Not worrying too much about what I'm doing. Looking at my reference here. You know, right along the bottom, I'm going back to that darker color. There are some rocks that are kind of laying a bit flat. So if they're flat, my brush strokes are flat. When I'm painting for myself and I'm not looking at getting something done at a certain time, I take my time. You know, I will be a little less you know, it'll be more detailed. You know, I will be a little more conscious of what I'm supposed to be doing, but you know, it's the same strokes. I'm just kind of being a little more precise with them. What I'm trying to do is give you enough information so that you can do this on your own. So what I've done is I've rinsed my brush and I've picked up some, I had some kind of a blue-gray on my palette. Same colors. It's just that this time it's more to the blue side. You know, it's something that I used before, so I already had it on my palette. And so you can see that it's a little more on the blue side. Just gonna come in here and just kind of just suggest rocks. These are drier rocks up here. They're, you know, they haven't gotten wet. These down here have gotten wet. Now back here there's kind of, I'm just going to add right along the top just that light little color. That's all I'm going to do with that. What I want to do now is I think I'm going to put in another layer of that same blue-green that I had back here. Bring the darkness up a little bit. So it's the same ultramarine blue and a little bit of hooker's green. Put my glasses on. And let's see if I can get out of the way. I'm going to just go over everything. And some of this I may go over yet again. Because down at the bottom is going to be the darkest. Again, I'm just going to kind of tap this color in. Now this is the part about watercolor a lot of people forget, especially when they're learning or intermediate, is that you can make it darker by adding layers. The layer underneath kind of helps bring up the value. And by leaving a little bit of that first color on there, it starts to look like texture, like the bushes and trees and stuff in the back. Mix that again. It's the ultramarine blue and my hooker's green and water. Let's see. Now, by leaving some of that previous color that I had down there, you can kind of start to see a little bit of texture and things coming in. And if I do even another layer, and it's going to be darkest down at the bottom of this. This is just mass color. But I'm just kind of just tapping it. That gives it a little bit of texture. Leaving some of what was there before. There's a little clump right down here behind these rocks. Some bushes. My palm trees. This will probably be the last layer for the palm trees because they are a little bit further away than this is. So they're not going to be as intense in color. Less detail. Not that this has a lot of detail, but there will be some texture that you'll see. Trying to keep my hand out of the way. Too many things for me to look at here. Got what I'm painting, monitor. Okay, you let it dry in between. Now I'm just kind of looking at my reference, and there is right along the bottom here, there is some green, some growth right at the base of these cliffs. By putting that in, it will help define that little path right there. I'm just tapping right along the very top of that little path with this green. I don't need that to be too dark, just enough to accent it right there. All right, I think I'm going to come in and put another layer of color in here. It won't be as much as I did before. This will be a little bit darker. There's a swell back in here that I'm gonna put in using the same color that I just used, the blue and the hooker's green, with just a touch more ultramarine blue in it. By using a color in more places, it kind of harmonizes your painting. You know, having unique colors like this pink, I've got to find a place to put in some pink, maybe down in here or up in the clouds, because that pink is kind of a unique color. There's a little bit of it there, but not much. So this is my blue, my hooker's green, and this is still my 1/4 inch angle brush, and I'm just going to come in and I'm making little U shapes. Where's a piece of paper? Okay, so I'm just making like little U shapes like that, and then these, as the waves are coming into shore. I've got a little glare on there. As the waves are coming into shore, they kind of pile up, and so I'm just putting in a few of these, making some of these little ripples that'll end up being kind of like that when they get to shore. But some of them just kind of fade out at the ends as they hit different land underneath. So I'm just coming in, adding some ripples. I don't want to lose everything that I've got going there. It's a little bit darker right up against the rocks, but again I'm trying to keep my brush parallel to the top and bottom, and making little flat banana type strokes here. Gonna pick up that same color right underneath the wave here. Let's see, is a little bit of a shadow. I'm gonna just enhance that a bit. Rinse my brush. Let's bring it up there. And then I'm going to take my damp brush. I rinsed it and just kind of took off some of the excess water. Just going to tease that color into the water in front of it. Rinsed it again. This creates that shadow. Everything that's got 3 dimension is going to have some kind of a shadow on it or under it or something, and that's what creates that 3D look. Right here there's another little wave. And just touching it. Little tiny U strokes, and then it just kind of peters out on both ends. It's hit something shallow right there. So it's piling up. Okay, you can put these little ripples in the water. You'll see them in the picture. Some of them are pretty long. Others are just little ripples. Yeah, as it comes in, there's some debris and stuff in there too. Come in, kind of strengthen. You can put ripples in. Oh, I'm echoing. Now this is where the water's coming up onto the shore. So when you pull this out, pull it kind of upward, because the sand is coming down the hill, and so the water's kind of coming up onto shore. Don't want to get too far out of frame. Oops, too much water. Right now I'm just kind of getting things in so that when I do the final, work on this, I'm, ready and set to go. This is still a little bit of the underpainting. I'm going to take a little bit of the ultramarine blue. I'm mixing down on my palette. A little tiny touch of alizarin crimson. That makes a kind of that same blue, gray, purple I had. Want it on the blue side. When I look at the photograph, what I see is a reflection of the sky, but it's kind of a light lavender color, which is what I'm trying to get. So I'm using quite a bit of water in this. Let's see if that's going to do it. No, a little more color. Okay, I don't want to cover up all of that, but I do want to put a little bit of color in. This is kind of the water between the foam, so I'm just kind of sketching this in with the tip of my brush. You could use a liner brush or a round brush with a good point on it. I may do some lifting later, and you can't see that. There's a lot of foam and stuff back in this area that I'm just trying to suggest. Like I said, you can get as detailed on this as you want. You just have to take your time a little more. Look at your photo. See if I can get it a little better to the the screen so you can see what I've done here. I've just used the point of my brush and just kind of did a little bit of like calligraphy type strokes here. Just kind of sketching those in, giving a little bit of texture to the water. I'm going to add right along, especially behind my little house, my little lifeguard station, same exact color. I haven't even put any more color in. Want to just add, that's dry now, so I can add just some more color, because to create, to have light and dark, you've got to have the contrast. So I want this fairly dark right around, particularly the little lifeguard station, but I'm going to take that across the bottom, because it's always going to be a little bit darker right at the bottom. I'll see what it looks like next week if I need to do some more, but while I've got it there, and you can kind of see how I've painted around, negative painted it. You can work from there.